Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Dominic, the Primetime Treasure Hunter. Thanks a lot for coming by to check out another video. I'm going to talk to you about an important topic today, which has to do with time management. And I know time management is something that so many resellers struggle with. And related to that is the art and the ability of learning when to say no to people. That is something that is so hard for so many people because just even saying no or anything related to the word no is thought of as negative, and people have a hard time sometimes saying that, and they worry, what is somebody else going to think about me if I say no? Are they going to think I'm lazy if I don't take on a certain responsibility? Are they going to think I'm mean? And you don't want people to think those things about you. And so you wind up sometimes saying yes. And the risk of doing that is putting yourself in a situation where, one, you're doing something that you do not like. And two, is sometimes it's both of these things. You're doing something that is taking just too much time, and you start to overburden yourself and you start to feel like I probably took on too much. But then once you take it on and you commit to it, people often feel like they're stuck and that they can't get out of it. So the best thing to do is to just keep that in mind in the back of your head that, if you commit to it, you're probably going to stick with it, and then you're going to get kind of overwhelmed. That if it's something that, you kind of feel is going in that direction, it is best to say no at the outset, because then the person who's asking you, could you do this thing? And if you said no at the outset, then they could go and they could find somebody else to do it. But if you commit to it and then start doing it and then say no and back out, then that is definitely going to get the person upset, and understandably, because you committed to something and then you back out of it. So I wanted to kind of share an example with you of something that happened with me last night. And it's not, the specifics of the example are not something that's going to necessarily apply to everybody who's watching this. But that doesn't matter. Again, it's just an example, and you could just take my example and substitute all sorts of other things, from your life into it. I mean, there's many different draws on our time if you think about it. I mean, there's family responsibilities that we have to balance out with our reselling business. There's work responsibilities. There are friends that we have commitments to. There's chores and things around the house that you have to take care of. There's taking care of your car. There's leisure activities. There's vacations. I mean, there's so many things competing with your time. And there's things people ask you, they tend to ask you to volunteer to do. And it's those things that I'm really focusing on with this video. Is when people are asking you to kind of volunteer your time to do something, is learning when to say no to that. Or in addition to volunteering your time, it could be that they're asking you to take on an additional responsibility, maybe in the workplace that could take a lot of extra time up for you. So let me jump into the example that actually happened with me last night and kind of gave me the idea to do this video. But this is actually something that this topic has come up from time to time. There's actually a discussion in my Facebook group a couple of months ago in which someone had left a full-time job to go into reselling, and then the person who, I don't want to share this person's name, so if you want to put it in the comments and say it was you, that's fine. But the person then said that the boss was kind of trying to suck them back into the business, and there was kind of like I think like a friend kind of relationship there too, which made it even harder to say no. And a lot of people in the Facebook group are trying to give this person support that, it's okay to say no if you want to, because, you really want to focus on your reselling business. You didn't really like the job. You might like the people that you worked with interpersonally, but you didn't really like what you were doing, and you're really enjoying your eBay and your Amazon, your Mercari, or whatever it is that you're doing, and you don't want to do that stuff anymore. You want to move on. So it's important not to get sucked back into these things, and be assertive and let the person know respectfully that no, you've decided to move on, and it's time to do something else. So what happened with me last night, which is interesting, and as this channel grows to closer to 5,000 people, as you could see right here is current subscriber count. A lot of people are sending me messages and they're asking me, hey, could you share some more about about yourself, personally and on the side. And I don't mind doing that as long as I could tie it into something that could help you with your reselling business. And so let me jump into this example, a little bit of a background on it. A lot of people know that I do work full-time as a board certified neuropsychologist. What I have not told people is that my job is 100% clinical. In other words, I only get paid to see patients. Even though I work in an academic medical center where there are a lot of people who do research, and I do have a title of associate professor or clinical associate professor, so I do lectures and stuff like that sometimes. But in terms of what I'm actually paid to do, it is 100% clinical work. So no one pays me to write a book. No one pays me to write research papers. No one pays me to write book chapters. Nothing like that. Anything that I have ever done with regards to that is purely and has purely been on my free time. Before I was, jumping back into my reselling business. I started with the reselling, on eBay back in 2000, but then I took time off to develop my career. And a lot of these writing projects that I took on helped to do that. And so right now I would say I'm in what we call mid-career, not early career. So early in a career, that is a time where it is good to take on a lot of different tasks. You still want to be careful not to overburden yourself, but a lot of opportunities come your way. If you're trying to grow yourself, whether it's in a reselling business or whether it's in a side career that you have, it is good to take on things that come your way and to, explore as many opportunities as you reasonably can. And so I wound up taking on a lot of writing projects. If you're part of my Facebook group, the Facebook Reselling Resource Center, I do a lot of writing on there because that's something that I have a skill with. I'm not good with things that are visual spatial in terms of constructing things and putting things together. I'm not great at that. I'm pretty good with like the visual side of marketing things and putting together like little diagrams and stuff like that and some art stuff, but I'm not really great with like maps and I get lost really easily. So my right hemisphere doesn't work that great, but my left hemisphere is pretty good. So as a result of that, I have done a lot of writing projects over the years, and I'm telling you this because this relates to something that I turned down so you could understand kind of how things have evolved with my reselling business. And we're kind of at, this is like an important point for me, what happened last night, that I never would have done this before. And so I want you to understand it. I'm not showing you this stuff really from a bragging perspective. It's so you understand that, where I'm kind of coming from in terms of my background and like how much of a big deal it was for me to say no to this situation that popped up yesterday. So I've written 2 books. This one over here on mild traumatic brain injury, symptom validity assessment and malingering. And this one over here, validity assessment. This one came out recently, 2018, in rehabilitation psychology and settings. And it's, obviously it does take a lot of time, a lot of effort to do these things. Don't buy the books. I'm not putting them up there. There's no links to them in my description section. I don't want you to buy them. I would tell you, do not buy them. You're just going to be wasting your money because they're going to be extremely boring. They're very academically based, a lot of research citations, that's the sort of stuff. Really just showing it to you so you understand the background. Now here you could see, in addition to books, there's a lot of book chapters that I've written. I'll emphasize the word chapters because that ties into what I'm going to tell you in a few moments. And there are a lot of research studies and publications that I've published in peer-reviewed journals, presentations I've done at conferences all over the country. In fact, even in different countries, Canada, I've gone there and done some presentations as well. And so any of these things that pretty much that you're seeing here, there's really not much, and sometimes zero in terms of the vast majority, there's zero compensation for it. I mean, you're just doing it because you're trying to grow in your career, you're trying to contribute to science. But in terms of doing it from a business perspective, I mean, that's not why I'm doing any of this. Now, don't get me wrong, there have been like a couple of professional presentations that I've charged some speaking fees for that I've done that came out of the books. But for the most part, none of this stuff is anything that I'm making any money off of, and certainly not anything significant. I mean, these books, trust me, while they do sell within my profession, this is not like publishing Harry Potter, and the proceeds from it is really terrible. In fact, just so you know, if you never were aware of this, like how much money do you make with doing a book like this? Well, the publisher gets 90%. 90%. The authors get 10%, and I have a co-author with me, so that is, we split that 5%. So there is not much money to be made when you factor in how much time is getting invested into these things. And so to tie this back into my life and into my reselling business, what happened was, I don't remember what it was. I could have been working on one of these books. This one would have been either this one here, or could have been, one of these writing projects that I was doing. And it was something that, I don't think it was the book, but it was some other writing project. It was something that I wasn't going to get a lot of, or any compensation out of or anything. And I wound up, I'm sitting there, I'm writing in, I'm working on my laptop, and looking around, and I'm thinking of my kids, and I'm saying to myself, it's great that I'm doing this, contributing to science, helping my career and that sort of stuff. I said, but from a business perspective, from a helping out my family perspective anymore, because remember, I don't get any money for publishing any papers through my work. They don't, I mean, it's nice. They're like, that's great, but it's not like it's anything they're going to give me any kind of bonus for or anything like that. So, I'm thinking I have 2 kids that are going to be going off to college, and, I've always wanted to, work on this reselling thing more, because I started it in 2000, and then I kind of, put it on a pause to work on, building up my career. Dabbled in it a little bit, here, there, list something on eBay, that sort of thing, but nothing like what I started getting back into several years ago, and growing the YouTube channel and the Facebook group and all those sorts of things. And so I said to myself, I really think it's time, now to kind of put that stuff to the side and grow the reselling business and do that. And, I really like that. I really enjoy it. I have a lot of fun with it. I was talking to Donna on the phone. She's one of the subscribers, members of the Facebook group. She's like, we could just tell when you're talking how much passion you have in your voice about reselling, how much you love it. I mean, listen, it's true. I love it. I think about it all the time. I mean, it really is a passion of mine, and I really don't see anytime soon when I'm going to be stopping doing this. I mean, I really, really, really love it. And so, just continuously putting more and more time into it. And so what happened last night is that I got an email from a colleague of mine who is writing a book. They're coming out with a book. It's very similar to the one that I wrote here, but it's going to be a little bit different. And they wanted me to write not only 1 chapter, but 2 chapters for the book. And you don't get any money for doing that. What you get is a copy or a couple of free copies of the book. That's what you get kind of as compensation. But just so you know, if you haven't written a book chapter before, especially an academic one, it's an intense experience, and it really, if you're going to do it right, it takes a lot of time. It takes like months to do it properly. And so we're not just talking about 1, we're talking about 2. Not only that, I'd have to get a draft to the person by July and all this sort of stuff. And I knew this was going to happen at some point. Now, in the past, I would normally say yes, I would do it. Because again, I felt that it was something important for my career as I was, developing it and growing, and, like to build relationships and build bridges and stuff like that. And, when you say no to somebody, then they're not going to come back to you, chances are, the next time and stuff. And so I always wanted to kind of keep those opportunities open. But, things change, and that's the important thing to note. Things change, things evolve, and you've got to be willing to adapt. And so I'm at a different situation now. I'm at a different phase. And so, part of the art of saying no is knowing how to say it, not being, too curt, not being, rude about it. And so I let the person know. I said, I really appreciate the honor of the invitation. I said, and normally in the past, I would have said yes to this. But at this point, things have really changed significantly in my life. And now I have another focus. And I told the person, because the person mentioned my book, I said, this book right here, that may be the last thing I ever wind up writing in terms of like some kind of professional article or publication. I don't know that things might change, you never know. But for right now, I just don't foresee myself getting involved in any of those types of projects. And so I let him know that, and I said, I have these businesses that I'm running on the side, and that involves not only my reselling business, but my medical website, MedFriendly, and the blog that's associated with it. And that's what I'm really pouring all of my spare time into. I mean, any spare time second I have, that is what I am doing. I am spending it on well, I shouldn't say that. There's obviously, I'm very involved with my family. So family takes number one priority. For example, my son has like a basketball tournament coming up, and I'm going to be spending all weekend doing that. And I don't care what kind of estate sales or garage sales are going on. I'm not going to those. So, and many of you know that who watch me. So family's number one. But I mean, outside of that stuff and outside of my job, of course, like those are like my main job. Those are obvious priorities. But any free time outside of those things, I'm pouring it into my reselling business. I mean, really am. Putting my heart and soul into it. And I don't want to be distracted by other projects right now. And so I let the person know this. I said, again, apologize. I can't take on a project, but I really look forward to the book coming out, look forward to seeing it. And again, thank you very much for the opportunity. And that's what you have to do. Now, you have to be willing to let yourself know and to tell yourself at the end, is the person possibly going to be disappointed? Might the person be upset? Might the person be turned off? This person, I don't think that's going to happen, but it's possible, depending on who it is that you're dealing with. And you need to be, this is the most important part. You need to be willing to just accept that. And you have to remember, number one is you. And number one is your family. Number one is what you enjoy to do, what you like to do. I mean, I told the person that I'm frankly getting burnt out writing about the topic that I've written about in these books and in other things. I've just said so much about it, and it's not like I have a lot of enthusiasm to bring to writing it. And when I don't have that, I'm not going to do a good job. Just like when I choose to do a YouTube video, I've got to be convinced, I've got to believe that I'm telling you something important, or I can't get behind this camera and tell you the sorts of stuff that I'm telling you and think that it's going to be good or anything like that. So, that's how you develop confidence. You have to believe in yourself. And you have to know that the decisions you're making make sense. They're logical decisions. Remember, in this situation, if I would have taken on those projects, I'm taking away time from my reselling business. I'm also going to feel much more stressed when I'm at my regular job and seeing patients. I know because I've done this before. So I just don't want to take that on right now. And it's best, remember what I said in the beginning, it's best to tell someone this at the beginning, because right now, that person could go out and he might be disappointed, but he could find other people to write those chapters. Okay? If I were to take on the responsibility, tell him I'm going to do the chapters, and then in 2 months from now, tell him I'm backing out, because they have deadlines with their publisher, that's when it's really going to cause problems. And so a lot of people will tell you when you say no in the beginning to something like that, I appreciate you telling me now. A lot of people will say that also. If someone does back out, they'll then tell you, if you would have just told me in the beginning that you couldn't do it, then that would have been fine. But now you're putting me in a bad spot because you're telling me you can't do it, you can't complete the project. Now that puts me on delay. So that causes all sorts of problems. So it's better just to be safer to tell the person, you can't do it, you can't take on the responsibility. So there's lots of situations that you could think of. I want you to probably, if you could think of those things, put them down in the description section or the comment section. If you are comfortable sharing those sorts of things, let me know about things that you've said no to, or is it difficult for you to say no? Is it still something that you're struggling with? Does this video give you any confidence into doing that? Is this something, maybe this example I gave you, something you would think of? I do try to motivate people, give some inspiration, and so I gave you the whole story and the whole background to let you know that, this is something I've never really done before. I've never really told someone no with regards to these writing opportunities and projects. But if you really want to grow that business, if you're really passionate about it, then things that are not essential to you anymore, things that are not as important on the radar screen, those are the kind of things that you're going to have to start knocking off if you really, really want to grow. So I hope you liked the video. If so, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Spread the word, let people know about it. My goal this year was to get up to 5,000, so we are getting closer and closer. We are inching up there. So again, please let people know. Make sure you come to my Facebook group, the Facebook Reselling Resource Center. The link to that is down below, and come to the Instagram channel. That's at prime_time_treasure. See you back at the next video, everyone. Take care.